Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO TED Talks, Devoted Talks, depending on how you want to say it, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience to help you and those you love and suffering in your personal and greater worlds. So I went and saw a movie yesterday. It is Project Hail Mary, and it's a fascinating movie. Not only is it entertaining and fun, but it just sparked some of those feelings in me that this obviously can't be all there is. Listening to politicians argue and fight and lie, and people being very tribal with their different teams, how they surface, whether it's Republicans versus Democrats or, a sports team or whatever, team tribal mentality there is, and having to just pay taxes and pay bills and die. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so it's nice to be reminded sometimes that not only is there a probability that there are greater things out there, that, sometimes we can move into that space as a reminder about, how myopic our view can be, being where we are in the process of evolution, right? It's just part of being in the Kali Yuga. I was talking with a friend about that last night, and it's just tough, right? Things are breaking at the seams and falling apart, and Kali Yuga is this dark age where lies become truth in some people's perceptions and worse. Right? It's like this era when our worst impulses become commonplace. Another way of talking about it would be like the movie Idiocracy. And I mean, I couldn't have picked or created something more on the nose than that, because it really is true. Like, wow, intelligent people really aren't, you know, procreating as much as people who are less. Almost like we as humans created our own problem, which facilitated the state that we're in right now. And I think that is the truth. But you can't learn how to rise above things until you're in the mix of them, right? Sometimes you have to walk to the bottom level to realize that you're at the bottom level before you can start climbing up and out. And maybe new things will be unlocked in that journey, but the lesson is that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know until you do, and then you act differently. So it was a really good movie, and I am looking forward to reading the book, because I think the book will elucidate lots of new things there, and details. Like, I like lore, I like the details, I like understanding things, and I like exploring the complexities of that. That's why I like yoga offers me the opportunity to explore the complexities of the subtle realm, the subtleties of vibrations, and our subtle interpretations and our subtle reflections of them in the greater world. And our reactions to them, and the way we react to them, and the way we reflex. And I don't know, I got kind of stuck on that idea. Like, I want to articulate it well, but I also don't know that there are technically words for it. Now, that was beautiful. One of the things that's been on my mind is how relationships and things are just really hard. Like, they are really, really, really hard, because we're constantly bouncing and rubbing against different sides of people, right? Some people have rough edges and some people have smooth edges, and we tend to line up with the ones that we're supposed to based on our resonance, our vibrations, such as they are, right? If we're in a vibrational universe, which some disciplines say that we are, I believe that we are. But, even atoms are in motion, right? Until we get to absolute zero, which is called absolute zero because it is the coldest and things stop moving. It's just always going to be this bouncing around. It's never that the bouncing around or the fluctuations are going to stop. I talked about this in another episode. It's that we get our feet underneath of us. We get these strong legs that are able to find gravity in very uncertain substrate from which to walk on. And it interesting, because we all are programmed differently, and we're all looking for things. And honestly, some of the things that we're looking for were programmed into us, right? Like, societally, they were programmed into us to look for them such as they are. One of my challenges is that I am very feeling based and very sense based. And so I like to find things that feel right, and then I'll run into people who do psychiatry or psychology, and they're like, well, you can't just go off of feelings. And I'm like, why not? If I am wired that way, why can't I do that? What I have to do, being as a sensing person, is I have to not let stories fill themselves in. I have to actively remember that things don't necessarily mean or have the same context as the feeling is eliciting in me. I can have a feeling that makes me feel very uplifted and upbeat, but that may not be the story that I give it, may not be exactly what my mind wants to make it into, because I associate certain things with certain feelings and certain states and certain, I don't know, ways I think or believe relationships are supposed to be. And so, what am I trying to say here? That, you know, we have a lot of all or nothing, on or off, right? Our computers reflect that aspect of self, right? With the binary code. And you can send different messages with that, but it is very simplistically dimensional. And yet, the complexity of the dimensions from which we are experiencing life is all over the place, because we are a 2 and 3, like, we have all the different dimensions within us, and we can go in different moment to moment to moment and feel the different dimensions acting upon us. And so within those shifting of those experiences and feelings can be very disorienting. And when we're disoriented, we often try to seek order, and how we seek order is often influenced by the different things that have happened to us in our lives, or things that have felt stable or safe in our lives. And so they become, in some people's cases, they become addiction. In some people's cases, they become a compulsive reaction or reflex that they take. In other cases, it is this thing that starts to happen that we go, oh, that's my cue to do the next thing, like remember my boundaries or remember my place in there. And while this started out with a very specific relationship experience for me, I started to see it in the context of all of them, and even past ones at that. And so I'm in a good place with it. Not that it was even that dramatic, the thing that I'm talking about, but sometimes things can appear more than they are, and maybe they actually are those things, but maybe not now, or maybe not in this dimension, and maybe not ever. Um, but somewhere they do, because you can't feel that or think that if it doesn't exist somewhere. But that doesn't mean that you either force it to be in this experience or that you try to make it happen in this experience. And that's where I probably in the past have acted different, where I try to actuate and or facilitate the thing that I feel is supposed to be and or does exist, because I think that's what's right. Whereas the universe then shows me in this moment, in actuality, what it should be, because of what it must be, because of all of the circumstances known and unknown that will it that way, that actuate it that way. And if I could condense it into one thought bite, it would essentially be that we have been raised and programmed to be certain, and certainty isn't guaranteed in this life. And that's why we have the scientific method to bring us closer to certainty. But even then, there are anomalies. And then don't even get me started on the placebo effect, especially as it relates to psychological drugs, right? Or mental wellness drugs. If the placebo effect can exist, that means that things aren't always 100% of the time guaranteed, and that sometimes the observer effect and sometimes the influence of proximity can shift and change them. But that doesn't mean that that is going to change what is happening or what will happen or what's meant to happen, not because of a fate aspect, but because of a probability and potentiality, right? When all of these alignments are contextualized, the probability and the um, potentiation is set to be this. And so one thing or several things are more likely than the other. And I know it sounds like I'm grasping, and I am, because I'm externally processing something that was a very emotional, internal fluctuation. And it's good. It's emotional, and there are feelings and there's tears that could come forth at any second, but not because of anyone and not because of anything, but because life is challenging, and in that challenge are associated emotions, and those emotions do influence everything, right? The root of all disease is partly attachment and misuse of senses, but it's those emotions that arise that cause further action and distortion that make it even worse. And so emotions are the source of our disease, but they're instigated oftentimes by misuse of senses and attachment. But I don't see the difference between them. They all are the same thing because they are the linchpin that sets everything rolling. Anyway, I could probably go on forever, but for now, I'll just say be well and be free.